Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to the October meeting of the ONS Quarterly Series. Our speaker today is Matthias Naue. He is a researcher at the University of Hamburg, working on special projects with Professor Stefan Heidemann. After training as a newspaper journalist, he enrolled at the university to study Islamic science, politics, and law, but his focus shifted to Islamic numismatics after he took a course with Stefan. Shortly afterwards, he started to work on various numismatic projects, including a project to document coins found from a French excavation in Kabul. There were also different projects for the Israel Museum or the Münzkabinett Berlin. And recently, he's been working on digitization of coin databases, such as a hoard of 2,200 coins from Bralsvik in the Baltic Sea into a database at the Münzkabinett Berlin. And today he's going to be talking about a very special early Islamic hoard.
This talk is not about a certain uncommon coin or an unknown variation or a new mint. The main objective is well known. The specialty in this case is the hoard as a whole. Never before in modern Islamic numismatics, a hoard of such a homogeneity could be studied. Over 600 coins, so it's the exact number is 625 coins from the same year and mint have survived as a hoard that must have been compiled shortly after the production. So this talk is about the extractions from that hoard and its impact for Islamic numismatics and Islamic history. The aspects I want to present are broad, so the presentation will be subdivided in the following chapters. First, we will have a look at the material, then I will give a little analysis and conclusions, and maybe we can discuss perspectives on that, what we can do with such a hoard and with the methods I used here. The coins we will talk about were minted at Madīnat Jayy in the year 162, which is, I think, for most of you known, which is the year 778-79. Jayy was a part of a community of several settlements, which form the later city of Isfahan. But the term Madinat labels the quarter as administrative area, where also the mint was situated. The name Isfahan was used by the Arabic sources, such as At-Tabari, for the city, but Isfahan existed there as a broader region and province. So the region here is in the map in the south of Jayy, so it's, well, a copy from a copy, but you can see it's in the middle of Iran. And I think that's nothing new for you, but just to bring things together. In the Umayyad and the Abbasid Empire, the governors mostly came from elite and hold their position as governor often just for a few years. In other words, the governors usually didn't come from the local elite and didn't establish a lasting local power. So, Jayy has a tradition as mint since the Sasanian Empire. As we can see here, it started with an undated drachma from times of Peroz and continued so on. This will be not of such a big interest for this talk here now. In Umayyad times, so after the conquest of Madīnat Jayy, we have a relative stable production of coins for round about 80 years with just short interruptions. The interruptions here are the gray lines, but we see many, yes, for nearly every year, not every year, but when you compare it to the Abbasid times, even more continuously. So the last coins before the coins from our hoard was struck in Madīnat Jayy in the year 130, and it was not the mint there was not under control of the empire, but under control of the of Abdallah ibn Muawiyah, who was part of the Abbasid revolution, so-called. So we see here now a period of nearly 30 years, up to the year 162, where we only have one dirham from the year 161, which is disputable, but I will present this coin later. So what we have here now is a gap of 30 years of where no silver coins were struck, and afterwards we have also a little gap before the 170s, and then in the core the mint continued after 196, then under the mint name Isfahan. We should keep this in mind, that there was a silence of like 30 years in advance and even afterwards for a little period. Contrary to the rare coin from 161, which I mentioned, the numismatic material we deal with is very common, is a very common type in early Abbasid numismatics. So the hoards we had on our table came in 3 parcels with an amount of 625 darahim, all struck in the same year, as I said. Though we don't have any, though it came as 3 parcels, we don't have any information about the provenance. It's most likely that they stem all from a hoard, or form a hoard, or are part of an even bigger hoard. With these parcels, 27 darahim were included that were struck at different mints and were obviously not part of the primary hoard. We can see this from the condition. So the condition of the youngest specimen among them that was struck in the year 190 in the mint Ashash was even worse than the shiny surface that we have here on our coins from Jayy. So many coins had some traces of soil on them. Here, very little, which is maybe from cleaning process. Here's one specimen still with the soil as it was probably found. So what we can state here is, so even if 27 other coins came with this hoard, we can exclude them and be sure that they didn't belong to the original hoard, and so we can deal here now with the 625 darahim, which we have here. In a careful documentation, we could gain data and pictures from that hoard before it dissolved again in the market, and even today some single coins from that hoard appear here and there in auctions from different sellers. Yes, it's just to show you some important features on the coin. We have here the mint Madīnat Jayy, the year, which is clear here, the name of the caliph, Khalifa al-Mahdi, and here this is the ligature for Yahya. And what is very important and special, or what you should keep in mind, are the 6 annulets around on the obverse side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a blank field on the top of the reverse side. Exactly. Well, this is the common variety of the coins from 162 from Madīnat Jayy. There appeared another variety from there. If you compare it, we have here now only 5 annulets, and we have a crescent or something on the top of the reverse. So this means our hoard just has one variety of the coins that were struck in that year in Madīnat Jayy, and slightly different variety was also struck there but it's even more rare. So yes, I think yes, you can see here also the name Yahya is on both coins. So this type was also struck under his control. Well, the result of the now let's have a closer look at the hoard. As I said, Stefan Heidemann was the one who realized the importance of this hoard and gave it to my hands to document and examine it. Our aim was a die count, but the hoard allowed also further observations, which I may maybe tell you a bit later here. For now, the die count is of interest. So I just want to recap that the die count means here to count the amount of different dies that were represented as imprint on the available coins. So in fact, the challenge here was to avoid to count one die twice or hold two different dies for the same one with the 625 homogeneous dice. So if you want to know something further about the method I used, we can discuss this. So at the end, at the end, after counting all the three parcels, the result tends to be like 407 obverse dice and 442 reverse dice that were in use to strike the coins from this hoard. But I need here to make a short notice. The third parcel of the hoard we could examine came very late to our hands. So after I carefully made the die count on the first 473 coins, which could be done on the table, as you can see here, and comparing coins and shifting them around, the work with the additional 152 coins from the third parcel could be done only by pictures. And this was an even more time-consuming process and a bit more difficult since shifting pictures on a screen is a bit more difficult if you have to check and counter-check over 600 coins. So the number the numbers differ. I just want to show you what the results were after the first die count. So as you can see here, the numbers differ a bit, but what can be said without any doubt, the third parcel, which we added here, added also a huge number of new dice which were not seen before. This all argues, even if maybe one or two doublets or triplets will come up, this reveals that the overall production and the overall amount of dice was very, very huge. And I will show you why. So now let's have a look at the frequency tables, which are as expected. Here you can see how often a certain or a die or how many dice appear twice or only one time or up to 14 times. So at the high frequency, we have the so-called singletons. On the opposite, these are 313, and on the reverse, 361. These are the numbers of the including the third parcel, and as I said, maybe on the reverse section, the number of singletons will be reduced a little bit due to the finishing of the competitive work. On the other side of the scale, we have one die that appears 14 times, or one die on the reverse die that appeared 20 times. So the question why counting the dice is why studying the dice? Dice are the original source. So as you know, they are bearing the original information, including the hand scripts and arrows and recuts and so on. But beside this information engraved in the dice, the number of the dice are of interest and give us an idea about the quantity of coins struck in a certain time. So this means, as you know, many dice means a huge amount, and the opposites other way around. So what you can see here now is the so-called estimation, and it's not an arrow with the Y in it, because this the formula I want to present in the next slide is done by Warren Esty, and well, this is a little wordplay done by me. So, well, what we can see here is just a progression, how the graphic could continue. And of interest in this case is how many dice were in use, but we don't see. And as you can derive from these lines here, it must be something around 900 up to maybe 1,100 dice that are still unknown. So the theory of die count by Warren Esty says that the possibility that it's possible to estimate the number of unseen dice, which here is where the line cuts the axis, can be estimated from the dice that we see. So, and this is how it then looks. We have goes back to 3 texts of Warren Esty, which he wrote between the late 90s and 2011, and he developed his formula. So especially in the factor we have here, which used to be 2 in former times, but he corrected to 1 because he says this fits the expected number even better. So what we can see here now, it's just to make long things short, that we need for the formula the number of dice in the sample, which is D, the number of singletons, which is D1, that's a dice that struck only 1 coin, and we need the sample size. So here we have now the numbers that derive from the die count, and at the end we have numbers like 1,272 and 1,188. I use the numbers from the first 2 parcels because they are a little bit more certain. And what we can see here now is that the result is around 1,200 dice each side. And I did the count also with the 3rd parcel, and it's derived in a similar, a little bit higher numbers, like 1,300 to 400 dice. For my work, I used Esty as tool to get numbers that might be comparable to other studies. So if we have further studies done in a similar way, then we have a possibility to compare them. And Esty proposes that the results should be trustworthy when the sample is random and is not collected from a special point. What we have here now is not a fixed number, it's just an idea of how huge the amount has been. And if we remember that there was a second variety from Madīnat Jayy, the actual number of dice has even been bigger. So what we can state is that there was a huge amount of of dyes and production. And well, just to have a look on to Jayy doesn't mean anything because we have our interest is how this fits to the early Abbasid coin production and mint output, and therefore we have here, while the die count was the micro perspective, now we have here the macro perspective. So we have a table done by Thomas S. Noonan in 1986. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. And he did not a die count, but a hoard count. And that means he evaluated 40 hoards of Abbasid dirhams, all in all 15,000 coins, and made these tables. And what we can see here, that's more important, is for the year, where are we here? So there, this is our year. So it's given in common area. So this is the year 162. And what we can see here is that, first of all, there's a period of silence for the Mint of Isfahan, as I already mentioned. But we can also see how numbers of coins shifted or changed. So what we see here is now, or what Noonan did, he plotted the coins from those 40 hoards, which I mentioned according to mints and times, and tries to find a relative, now he can see the relation of the mint output of different mints. And what we can see here is now the sudden appearance of Madīnat Jayy, and also the decline of mint output. For example, here at Al-Muhammadiyah, it arose here, then there was silence, and then it goes down, especially for that year. The other way around is for North Africa. Here, the number arose a little bit, and for Madinat Salam, the number rose also. To get the context of our coins from Madīnat Jayy, we can see as one result from these tables, they belong to the peak of the early Abbasid mint production in that year. So we have, as you can see here in the gross total, it's the peak of the production. So this is a reflection of also the fiscal and the political situation of those days. So what I tried now is to bring things together. So we have a huge production in Madīnat Jayy. We see here the relative mint output on different mints, and that we have a peak in that year. And if we go to the sources and chronologies, we may state that this fits to the times of the reign of Al-Mahdi, where we have a period of peace and prosperity. Treasuries were full, and the Caliph cultivated a reputation for generosity and open-handed. So he spent much money on building projects and even for salary of troops, for the troops. At the same time, there was no serious rebellion or big wars. We have some wars at the frontier to Byzantine Empire, but nothing that shattered the empire. So what we can see here in the for the economics, it seems also regarding the amount of coins, and if we quantify them, a flourishing time. Yes, here this is again an just compiled overview where you can see the reign of Al-Mahdi, which has here really the highest numbers of the overall output. And Jayy contributed in a certain way to it. And so just for a second, I want to make a little speculation. So as Goebel proposes or guesses that maybe 10,000 coins could be struck by one die. We keep in mind that we don't know how many how many coins could be struck by one die. Maybe the die broke after the first stroke, but maybe even later. But if we take as average the proposed 10,000 coins proposed by Goebel, we have a with our numbers, we have a volume of around 12 million coins from Madīnat Jayy in that year. And if then we put things together, we can derive to an overall volume in that year of around 50 million dirhams. But let us take these ideas only not as fact, but only as a little play of numbers and speculation, that we get an idea that we talk here about millions of darahim that were struck in that year. Well, let's come back to Madīnat Jayy. The production, as I said, has raised there only for 1 year. And we have to have a look on that guy here in the circle, which is Yahya. And that's, as I said in the beginning of this talk, here the pictures are a bit rare since I have no photograph of Yahya al-Harashi, but I want to explain a little bit about him. So the question is, why is there a peak of coins in Madīnat Jayy, and what does this tell us about the history? So as you already saw, we have 30 years of silence in advance of this output here, and then all of a sudden such a huge production came, and the production bears in both varieties the name of the Caliph and of Yahya. So this production must be linked to this certain guy. It's the question who this Yahya is. He, well, in former days, they discussed if we can read here Bijay, but this was rejected by the in numismatics, and it's read now Yahya. So it's very likely that we talk about Yahya al-Harashi, who is mentioned in sources. Here, this is a little bit a compiled slide. I will explain it a little later, or right now, because our findings of Yahya on this coin and where he is mentioned in the sources differs. So the two Arabic sources on Yahya al-Harashi for the time are important, but confuses with the dates. So At-Tabari says at the end of 162 in the month Dhul Qa'ada, Yahya al-Harashi was appointed governor in Egypt. In 163, he was removed from Isfahan. So that's the second fact we have in At-Tabari. And At-Tabari says in 164, Yahya was in charge for Tabaristan, Rujan, and Jurjan. So what we have here now is that in 163, he was removed from Isfahan, and at the end of 162, he was appointed as governor in Egypt. A second source is Al-Kindi. In this source, Al-Mahdi gave command over Egypt to Abu Saleh al-Hursi, Yahya ibn Dawood. So it's not Yahya al-Harashi, but Abu Salih al-Khursi, Yahya ibn Dawood. That is, and that was in the month Dhul Hijjah, and in 160 in the year of 162. So this was the last month of that year. So both sources say Yahya al-Harashi was in 162 in Egypt and not in Isfahan or in Madīnat Jayy. What is interesting about the source Al-Kindi is that he talks about the person Al-Khursi, which might be a confusion with the Razm. That's why I showed it here. I'm sure you're familiar with it. This is the Razm without the diacritical points, and as you can see, we can write some other names from it, and so also Harashi is possible. So Al-Kindi also gave a second date, which is 164, when al-Harashi was replaced by his successor there. So, as I said, the years given by the sources doesn't fit to what we have on the coins, and since these are millions of coins, there must be a confusion somewhere. Here on the bottom, I have the only specimen that is known to us, which might bear the year 161. But it's disputable if this is really that year, or if maybe an error on the die. We don't know. So this is only one single coin that we have. But we can be sure that Yahya was in 162 in Madīnat Jayy. So how to put things together? Beside the Arabic sources, we have additional coins. This coin here is a false from Egypt. It was published by Mohammed Yunus in the Syllogy from Tübingen, and he reads here also Anamir Yahya Maula. So here should be the Yahya, but it's an undated coin, undated files from Misr. So maybe what we know from this coin here is that there was a Yahya in Misr, but we don't know when. And as I said, there was another coin from 163 from Madīnat Jayy, which is also questionable and was discussed elsewhere. It came up in an auction, and it's not sure if there are specimens from that year. But let us leave this aside. This means we have. Especially, yes, this means the numismatic sources here have maybe to correct the written sources. In my eyes, the list of positions of Yahya al-Harashi is correct, but the chronology is not. It has to be corrected as the following. So Yahya was in Egypt maybe until the end of 161. Or maybe in the beginning of 162. Then he was appointed to Madīnat Jayy, where he stayed until the beginning of 163, before he was brought to or appointed in Tabaristan. Since we have also coins from that year struck in the year 163, 64 and 65, from Tabaristan with the name Yahya on it. And this all makes sense that he made his way from Egypt sorry. This is this was not correct. The map has to be a bit lower, so the squares shifted a bit. So, but what we can see here, the way of Yahya could be from Egypt to Madīnat Jayy to Tabaristan. Now the question is about the importance of Yahya, because why could he put his name on the coins, even if there was such an amount of coins where he was clearly responsible for. Well, here since we're about my main focus here was on the coin and the hoard. In further studies, what we already did, we tried to figure out and find out the network of and the family network of Yahya al-Harashi, and it appeared that maybe he's a kind of underrated governor in the sources. Not only because of the size of his personal and family network, but also because of the significance of his work or his task in Madīnat Jayy, to be responsible for such an amount of coins. And let's come to an end. I'm open for the discussion now. I want to make one thing that I couldn't include due to the time now. I just want to hold the output level in 162, as our study showed, has been an amount of 1/10 of a million. It shows that mints were very flexible, and this doesn't contradict a very high productivity of mints. So they could be established very quickly. And the role of Yahya al-Harashi, there's an S erroneously, was even more important than mentioned in the sources. And last thing that I want to say, and then we can go to discussion, is that what we found on the coins by a closer look, when we had them in hand, it was a bit difficult to document this by pictures. But when we had this in hand, we saw thin lines on the coins, which are not part of the inscription and not part of the information on the coin, but seem to be a kind of sketching or a matrix. And in my eyes, this fits together with a very efficient way, maybe to engrave dies. So Stefan Heidemann and I discussed this already. And so the question is, after 30 years of silence in Madīnat Jayy, how this enormous production could be established. And it could only be established by a specialized personnel that came maybe from the mints where the volumes went down, and could only be done in a very efficient way of coin production, and even if in die production. And what I found, and maybe we can make another theme about that to another occasion, was that there might be something that helped the engravers of cutting dies very quickly, gave them the positions of certain letters, and it seems that it maybe there was something like a pre-drawing on the raw dies, on which then the engravers could work very quickly. We used Photoshop in order to compare the coins, and when we made it transparent for 50%, we then could put two pictures over, and if they fit perfectly together, we had a match. And we can see this from Photoshop. But there are many cases, so a significant number of cases, where it seems nearly to fit in most of the features on the coins, but not only in one or two. And these were stable features, so not features that could develop or change in the process of coin production, but the position maybe of the annulets or certain annulets. But the rest of the coin was in a very similar position as on the other coin. So this is not finished, the thoughts on that, but I think the hoard from Madīnat Jayy can also give us maybe some hints, or to think also about an efficient way of establishing a coin production. So, and now I will have an end, and thank you for your attention.